Welcome. My name is Kelly Riordan. I'm a classical musician turned creative entrepreneur, and this is the best platform for musicians that are looking to shape their career by thinking outside the box. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Outside the Box podcast. I'm Kelly Riordan.
I'm Isak Peterson.
And we are really excited about today. We're really excited to talk to you guys, share a little more of what this podcast is going to be, why we're all here. But this has been roughly 6 months in the making. It was Isak's brainchild over the summer of 2022, and we've just taken a little while to get here, but I'm really excited for it. And today is, honestly, it feels pretty monumental, so really looking forward to it. But since it was Isak's idea, I want to have you explain a little bit more about what we're thinking.
My idea for the podcast?
Yeah. What is this?
Yeah. So this is the Outside the Box podcast. What we're really about here is talking about music and the arts, as well as entrepreneurship, how to do something new, how to create something for yourself. And we're just here to share the stories of people who have done that in really any stage of their career, from the start to maybe decades of experience. We're just trying to document and tell the stories of those people, and kind of just share ideas and have conversations around that.
I think over the last, roughly 3 years now, a little less than 3 years, since the whole world came to a screeching halt in March of 2020, there's been a lot of conversation around stability and what things used to look like versus what the new normal is. But there was also a lot of conversation, I think, for artists and musicians in particular around how do you reinvent your career? Like, if it has to change because you can't perform anymore, or if everything goes online, what is that going to look like going forward, and how do we adjust, and how do we stay agile? But even before all of that, I think finding a career in music and the visual and performing arts, really for any creative, is a challenge. You go to school or you get your training and you're a professional, but then you have no idea where to take that next. There's some clear paths, like you can take an orchestral audition, for example, as a clarinet player, but that's not always very linear. And university, conservatory doesn't always do a great job of preparing you for actual career readiness. It's a lot around playing and performing and being a good ensemble team member, but then it falls short in a lot of ways. So I'm not saying that this podcast is going to be the cure-all. That's not the goal. But the passion around this, I think, for both of us is just sharing ideas and stories, like Isak said, of how people build their career, so that those that are also looking to change up their career or getting started right now have more tools and resources and knowledge, and can learn from this to apply to their own careers, or figure out how to network and get themselves there.
Yeah, 100%. The reason I like podcasts and learning from other people and hearing how they have done it is, I'm the type of person to really, I like switching it up. I like doing new things all the time. I like new learning. And so when I listen and I hear stories from other people, it inspires me. It lets me think creatively. And so that's what I'm excited about in creating this podcast and sharing those stories.
I think, too, over the last few years, and obviously, I went to music school, so I've got a network from that, but just in the last few years, the network of other entrepreneurs, not even just musicians and creative entrepreneurs, but the other people that we've met through this process has been so inspiring, and having those friendships, those relationships, those connections has helped us so much. So this is also our opportunity to give back a little bit and share some of those connections and share their resources and make that publicly known as well, because we have so many people that have been a huge impact. So we keep talking about the last couple of years. Why don't we just jump there, if that's okay? We can talk about our background a little bit more, but I think maybe it'd be helpful to talk first about how Outside the Box as a whole came to be, sure, and then we can kind of take it from there. So March of 2020, I guess that's honestly the perfect starting place. We had been back in Wisconsin for 6 months?
Yeah, about a year.
6 months?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we moved back fall of 2019. We were in Georgia, moved to Wisconsin. important fact that maybe we haven't shared yet. We're married. I guess that's an important thing to share too, for those of you who don't know us in person or we don't know you closely right now. So we were preparing for our wedding. It was supposed to be in 2020, which, got pushed back and all that stuff. But we were moving back to Wisconsin to be closer to family and settled a little bit outside of Milwaukee. I'd built a private studio. Isaac had this incredible opportunity at the time to be working remote before everything went remote for a startup that was still located in Atlanta. And when everything shut down, I had built a really solid studio in a very short period. So I had, I think it was 43 students was the count at the time of shutdown in late March. And those students, I had some piano. They were mostly clarinet at that time. And many of them had been with me, since the studio started. It was a really exciting time. It had gone really fast. I had this wonderful full studio. I was making full-time income and loving that and feeling so in control and creative in my work, and feeling really fulfilled at that time. I know Isaac was feeling really fulfilled in your work and things were going really well.
Yeah.
Not in music, though. I think that's an important clarification, too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think the, year 2020 and everything for music teachers moving a lot of times from in-person to online was kind of a good reason for this to all start. But really, I think quickly we found that there's this missing piece a lot of times for people that go to music school or university for music, in that, a lot of times the business stuff isn't getting talked about that much. There's not a course specifically about starting a studio or, how to market yourself, how to learn sales, how to, do all of the things that a small business owner would need to quickly do to start up a business. And so that was kind of the package that we saw we could put together and kind of the need in the marketplace that we could fulfill.
Yeah. And it started even more organically, I think, than that we had, like, in late March when everything closed. I had a few connections with families in near the Beijing area in China that I had been in connection with over social media, and they were telling me what was going on, that everything was shut down. I just had this feeling like something was coming, and I know that at the time the media was like, "Oh no, nothing will shut down. Like, it's just those other countries." So I'd kind of put a plan in place, and I knew what I was going to do, and I had it all written out, and I'd kind of shared that with a few colleagues. And when things closed down, I had more colleagues reaching out saying, "How are you handling this? What are you doing with your students? What did you tell everybody? What is Zoom? How do we use it? Like, how do we teach online?"
And so how are you communicating with those musicians?
Honestly, it was all social media. Like, okay. I had friends, originally it was just close friends of mine, or in the studio space, the commercial space that I rent my studio in, it was colleagues there. So I was doing, in that studio space around the time of shutdown, I was doing little, like, in-person, obviously, like, masked, socially distanced, presentations on how to use Zoom. So I would come in and for like 2 or 3 teachers, and there were like no cases in our area at the time. It was like very early, but I would do a tiny little workshop on here's how I teach via Zoom. And I taught online before everything shut down anyway, so I was more familiar. I'd been using Zoom for years, so it was here's how I use it, here's how I set it up.
I also remember that you made a YouTube video about
I made this YouTube video, yeah. Oh gosh.
So Kelly made this YouTube video, and you started sending that out because you had done a few in-person, like, one-on-one Zooms with people.
And then it became obvious I couldn't do it anymore. It was like, okay, now we've got cases in the area, we have to be careful. So yeah.
So the YouTube video was about how to use Zoom specifically to teach private music lessons.
Yeah.
And you started sending that out, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just like helping out my friends. Like, they need this. They asked for my help. And
previous professors were asking for it and like sharing it with their studios or
yeah,
using it to teach their own students at university. And then I started getting phone calls, like, or emails or DMs on Facebook or Instagram that were like a friend of a friend of a friend that had like seen my video and it kind of gotten dispersed. And I'm not saying it like blew up by any means. It wasn't like a massive viewership, but I think word kind of spread that I was willing to help.
You had a full studio.
Yeah.
Too. It was like...
It was great. So long story short, I ended up on all these Zoom calls with other music teachers or colleagues that were in music, had been performing and couldn't perform as much anymore, and were looking to teach a little bit more and trying to build that up pretty quick. So I started just getting on these little casual chats, helping people figure out what to do. And it was very informal. I was not charging for it. It was just really fun, honestly. Like, these are my colleagues, these are my friends. It's exactly what I like to do, is to be around other musicians. I always have. So I think it kind of took on a life of its own. I think by June, I was probably spending 20 hours a week, in addition to my teaching, on Zoom or on phone calls, or like answering messages and helping people. At the same time, we had not thought about this being a business at all. There was no conversation around that. It was just something I was doing for fun to help, and I had plenty of time on my hands. We weren't going anywhere, so it was a good distraction. But I had this idea over the summer for an AP music theory course, and I really did not know how to build an online course. I was absolutely making it up, but that was fine.
And this was the first time you kind of thought to yourself, okay, there are all of these opportunities online to do a virtual, like a remote-based business.
Yeah.
And AP Music Theory could be that. So that was the first idea that you had for a music remote business, correct?
And I was excited about it. I was excited to work with like higher level high school musicians to prepare for the AP test. I was excited about the idea of, I was going to host it on another platform, and I had done a bunch of research, and my own AP Music Theory teacher was helping me put it together to make sure it covered everything, and that I had a College Board approved curriculum and plan so that I could get that actually submitted and have it be an accredited program. So we started talking about what this could be and how to market it. And I said, honestly, I have ideas. Like, my first thought was, I'm just going to email every music teacher that I could possibly find at the high school level in the state of Wisconsin and make myself known, tell them what I'm doing, and if they had to cut AP Music Theory at their schools, maybe they'll introduce this to their students. I had that direct plan to the teachers, but I didn't know how to market it direct to parents. I was excited, confused, maybe a little frustrated, and like trying to figure that out, and it was a lot of back-end work. So I asked Isaac, since at the time he was working in digital marketing, for some help and guidance and what to do next.
Yeah. And, we tried a lot of things. But, what kind of happened next was, I have this friend that I knew from working in Atlanta who started this company that was a consulting company, and he was doing a lot of things remotely and meeting with people over Zoom, and he had a really interesting business model. So I sat down with him and chatted with him and set up a meeting for Kelly to talk about her idea with AP Music Theory.
It was really helpful. Also totally eye-opening, because I think I would say I've always been passively interested in business and entrepreneurship, but I never considered myself outright to be an entrepreneur or a business person. And sitting down and talking about this idea and, structuring a plan around it, and the offer and the sales process. And I think at the time I felt like I was on a little bit over my head. And he did a great job of breaking everything down and making it a little bit more palatable and giving me ideas and guidance. But in that process, as we were really concentrated on what this was going to look like, I kind of had a realization. Like, he asked me in one of the calls, so is music theory one of your favorite things to teach? And like, after a really awkward pause, I was like, no. Like, honestly, when I was in school, theory was one of my least favorite subjects in music. Like, I love musicology, and I've taken some really cool courses around that piece of analysis, but theory itself is not my jam.
Felt like a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And not that I wasn't disinterested at all. It's not that, but it just, if I was going to rank like my lessons in performance and musicology, I would definitely put theory towards the bottom of that interest. And that's fine. Like, some people go into music theory, some people go into musicology, like, that's all normal. But I felt like I was doing this because it was the clear opportunity I had found, and I was excited to have any opportunity to help at that point. So we were on one of those meetings, and he looked at me and said, just out of curiosity, Isaac said you've been talking to a lot of other music teachers. Tell me more about that. Like, it seems like you're really into that. So we talked extensively about what that had been and how I was helping people. And I was still doing it at the time. This would have been like August of 2020. And he said, well, if you like that and you're excited about it, you're already actively doing it. Why don't we just pivot there?
Sure. And you're talking about it with a smile on your face, right? And more excited about it. And then also just realizing the overall opportunity of what that could be. I mean, you know, you talk about, you know, the people that we get to work with today, and then also, you know, the already in place system of the university system, music school. It's just a giant opportunity. So you match that with your interests at the time.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and we had a lot of, like, I remember going for a walk with you shortly after and talking about the opportunity and how initially that didn't really sit well with me. Like I was super uncomfortable, like marketing and selling to my friends and my colleagues and this community that I absolutely adore and I'm so connected to, and it's so important to me. It felt not great. So I kind of kept it a secret for a while. Like I was, you know, talking to people through social media, or when someone reached out to me, that's, you know, kind of where we started. But I was almost running it by everyone as like, would you maybe be interested in this? Like,
Sure.
would this actually be helpful if I like put together a more formalized program and plan, and you had more structure in the marketing, and I could create documentation to support you and, you know, give you a sample studio policy, for example, or give you, you know, resources to get in touch with schools and teachers and do that outreach. What could that look like? And the response was overwhelmingly positive. So, of course, I obviously came around to the idea of it being more comfortable, but I think if you had told me in February of 2020 that I was going to be a business coach, I absolutely would have laughed at you. That's not what I set out to do. That was never the plan. It wasn't initially what I was excited about, but this organic way of coming into business and having the support of Isaac and a coach and consultant ourselves was absolutely incredible. And over the last couple of years, I feel like I've found my life's work, like my life's passion. I'm like a little embarrassed and I'm getting emotional about this right now, but I just, like, I love what I do. I love it so much. And to see other musicians finding huge success and just growing amazing programs and impacting their own students in incredible ways. Like, there's only one of me. I can only have so many students in a week. Even if I was doing group classes and scaling, like, there's only so many students I can be in direct contact with. So to be impacting thousands of other students through our clients is an enormous gift. And I feel so thankful for that. But it took a lot to get there. And learning to use social media and digital marketing was something that I struggled with in my confidence and telling people what we were doing. And that's definitely, I think, where you came into play a lot, because I was nervous at first, for sure.
Yeah. I think it makes us a really good team because you have this clear passion for what you do. And, you know, I get to support you in that. And just in setting up how we market our business at Outside the Box and how we structure everything from our sales process to our onboarding and how we turn clients into success stories. That entire process is something that I deeply care about and that I've been able to, you know, get hands-on with. So it's like a really good balance and a really good pairing in this company.
It's not something I would recommend for everyone, like starting a business and working with your partner full time. I think you'd probably agree with that. But it's been an incredible gift for us, you know, especially in the delay in our official, you know, actually finally getting married and like sealing that deal. I mean, we've been partners for a long time. We've been together for a while, but just having that like official connection of we have a business, now we're married, like we've got this life established. It's always been exciting for us. And we get a lot of questions like, do you ever get sick of each other? No, not really.
But honestly, I don't think I could do it if it was unstructured.
Yeah.
You know, we have
support.
Job descriptions, both of us, and we have our own workspaces. You know, we have our own schedules, and It's very structured, and that's the way we operate. You know, if it was like, if we were sitting at the desk next to each other all the time,
probably maybe we would get sick of each other.
I couldn't make it work.
It is very independent, and it's been nice to do that. Like I love being client facing. I love being the one talking to all of our clients and potential clients. You know, you've done more of that, especially in the last few months. But it's been a good kind of divide of, I just get to focus on getting on the calls and helping. And on the back end, I just got everything else handled, and creating content for our clients, creating content for our business. I think that's really exciting and really helpful.
Yeah. And it's been fun for me and a huge learning experience, because I'm the one that didn't go to music school. You know, I went to business school basically, and started off going to college thinking I was going to be a mechanical engineer. You know, I came from a family of engineers, and, you know, a lot of people in my family worked in construction or built things with their hands, and that's what I thought I might do for a career. So I went to college for that, and then quickly pivoted and took a semester to just take a bunch of classes. And I remember what was cool about that semester is I took computer science, I took economics, I think I took another business class. And after that, it was pretty clear that I loved the wide openness of my economics classes. And I felt like everything I learned from those professors I could apply to anything, and I could just kind of be ready for anything. So I ended up graduating with an economics degree. You know, I worked for a couple of software companies and learned the ins and outs of that, and did a wide variety of stuff with those companies. You know, everything from answering the phones and taking customer support calls, you know, tech support calls, to learning how they marketed and how they sold. And that was really cool. You know, I did that for a number of years and kind of learned from experience this like wide variety of stuff, right? So it fits my personality in finishing that economics degree, right?
There's a theme here if no one has picked up on it. Learning, new things. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always what's been exciting to me, and to be able to apply what I know about those things to our business now is like a ton of fun for me.
It's fun too, because we get questions from clients. Like we've had a lot of people ask us about TikTok recently, really over the last year. And so we decided that Isaac specifically would become an expert in TikTok. We're just going to learn it. We're going to get help. We're going to figure it out. It's still a work in progress. Like, not saying that we've got it all figured out by any means. It's still growing for us, but we enjoy collectively taking that feedback and that interest from our clients and exploring that too. So it's been fun to just like really specify our own goals and how we grow our business around what our clients, like other music teachers, want to. And it's been really fun.
Yeah, what's really helped me recently, you know, I felt like I developed a somewhat good background of, you know, sales, marketing, operations. But what's cool now is to learn more about psychology. And with social media, you can always apply psychology to that. And so, you know, when I'm reading books, I kind of pick ones that have a psychology theme, because like once you get to that stage, I think learning more about how people think and, you know, how people can just get on their phones nowadays and start scrolling and see content that is made for them. You know, it's the algorithm knows your interests, and it's going to show you content that you might like. And, you know, it's addicting, but it's definitely a psychology thing, and good marketers know how to apply that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kind of jump back in your career, because I know you're talking about how you got here, but something that candidly we were talking about even on the way over here today was how your degree or your focus in school does not dictate your career. Like, it's a starting point. This is the reason that every university requires gen eds, is that you have to have a well-rounded background to know what you want to do going forward and be exposed to a lot of things. But the specific degree that you get, whatever the certificate is not a linear path. And what happens afterwards is a lot more important in many ways. You know, obviously we'll talk about kind of my journey in a second, but I think it's important to touch on this with you, that, obviously you had a few changes in that, but getting ready for your career or even starting your career and finding your own way into software, what did that look like? What made you successful there? Because you were not a computer scientist or engineer. Like, that was not your background.
Yeah. I think for me, there was a point in time, probably multiple points in time, where I was at school in college, and I was still at my core undecided in a major, right? So I didn't have anything specifically picked out, and that, like I said, that kind of led me down into taking business and economics classes. But yeah, I think what's important is, even if you have a specific degree or certificate or whatever it is, and it's like very specific, like marine biology, I don't think that is going to determine your career path 100%. That doesn't mean that you're always going to be doing that thing. And, I think it's important to understand that you always have options. You can always go knock on someone's door and create an opportunity for yourself. And, there were several times where I did that, where I talked to a professor or someone in an industry that I had no idea about. And, you just kind of have the conversation, and maybe that's going to lead to, you being their assistant one day, or, you could go up to a large company that you're excited about. Maybe it's Google or Facebook, and you could network your way into answering the phones for them. And if you're trying to work in tech, that would be your way into doing that. Even if you have a very specific niche degree, there's always a chance that you could do that. I mean, I guess the way I see it is there's always an opportunity that you can go out and create for yourself.
I think this is interesting too, because when we talk about like the parallel of, really any other degree, and then music and the arts and performing and visual arts, like when you were in school, there were career fairs for you. Like, you could go to events and you could meet representatives from those big companies, and you could schedule interviews and talk about when you're graduating and what you might want to do, and learn about what different positions entailed and different, maybe tracks that they had in their program. It doesn't really exist in music. And so these same principles are important across the board. It's just that we're in this little silo. Like, we all just kind of live in the music building. We live in our practice room. Like, we don't have those same opportunities. And the networking that you're doing when you're in school, and this is something I wish I knew earlier. When I was in school, I wish I was building better relationships with a lot of my professors, not even my major professors, like people that I didn't even take classes with. Like, if I was excited about what they were working on, or their research, or just they were a nice person, I wish I had invested more time into getting to know them. I wish I'd gone to more office hours. I wish I'd built those relationships out more, because the professors that I have maintained really strong connections with, they have helped me in countless ways. I mean, they've brought me back into programs to do speaking now. When I was trying to do market research and figure out what to do, a lot of them were my sounding board. There's a lot of trust there. They have an ear to the ground in the industry, and they have other connections.
Sure.
And that's something that now, because I almost have that little pang of regret, we've applied more. Like, we went to a conference in June. We went to the NAMM show in Anaheim, and I challenged myself to walk up to any presenter or anyone that I found to be particularly interesting and introduce myself and say, I'd love to talk. And I did that. I went up to probably 8 different people throughout the course of that weekend, and seriously, like, stuck my hand out and said, my name is Kelly Riordan, and it's really nice to meet you. And I thought your presentation was fantastic, or your background is so interesting, or, I have such and such connection to your school, or I had this mutual connection with you, and I'd love to connect. And, grab their business card or their phone number, went to dinner with some of them, connected for meetings. And that has led to just remarkable things for us in the last year. But that sense of networking is not taught in music schools. I think it's something that gets talked about a little bit, probably in business classrooms, if I had to guess. But it's not talked about enough in our industry. And obviously, I'm getting passionate about this too, because I think it's so dang important. But finding that confidence in a lot of ways has kind of come from like modeling a little bit of what Isaac has done in his own career, and how he's met people and made those connections seeing that firsthand as your partner, I think has given me a lot of confidence to do the same thing. But I think a long-winded way of saying musicians, creatives, artists have to have that skill set. And the only way to get that skill set, like anything else that we're used to, is practice. Like repetition, doing it all the time. The first few times I had to tell someone in person what our business was or what my job was, I violently shook.
It was uncomfortable, right?
So nervous. Like, how do I explain to someone in an elevator pitch what Outside the Box is, and how do I connect and not be weird and awkward?
Yeah.
And even talking about like being a private music teacher, the first time I mentioned that when we moved back, like even that made me nervous.
It's uncomfortable, right? And I think back to NAMM, the conference that we went to, and you kept on saying like, I'm like excited but also kind of nervous, and I'm like, you don't seem, you kind of seem like you're in your element to me, but and we walked away from that conference, and I looked at the calendar and I was like, we have all these meetings next month.
Yeah,
like you have like 10 meetings that you just like created out of thin air.
Yeah.
And so you were doing your thing and I was over in other presentations, and meeting some people, and they'd ask me what I do, and I'm like, now I'm the uncomfortable one. I feel I'm not even in music, like, and I have
here
to explain what I do, and it's like I'm just learning how to be in music at this point. Like I'm just kind of there. So
it's been a shift, and I think it's important too to like kind of talk about how we ended up together, because we work both full time and Outside the Box. That's our main thing. I do teach, just not nearly as much as I once did. I miss it in a lot of ways. I'm also so passionate about what I'm doing that it's worth that little sacrifice, I think. But you had always been working in the background, obviously, as we've been talking, that you were supporting the business from the beginning. It was about this time last year that we had a really important conversation about, we either need to hire again. We had a full-time assistant at the time. We either need to hire again, or it'd be really nice if maybe we could just hire Isaac out of his job, and what that would look like. And that transition has been incredible, and the growth that's happened in our business since then as a direct result of your involvement is so exciting and outstanding. And I know that our clients consistently on a daily basis are positively impacted and appreciate you and appreciate having your support and your answers to their questions. But on a personal level for you, what is it like to be a non-musician working in the music industry? How does that feel?
I mean, like I said before, like it's uncomfortable, but what's cool about it is, for the past year or so, for the first time for me, I was, looking at a calendar that didn't have any meetings on it yet. Yeah. And I had to set up my own, everything on a day-to-day level. And I started to be accountable like to this startup, and like I had to be accountable to myself, because I easily could have just, I don't know, gone to a coffee shop and pretended to work, but at that point in time, I had to figure out how our company operated and what were the things I could do to make a difference and move the needle. And I had to figure those things out and eliminate the ones that took a lot of time but didn't really produce anything. We did a full revamp of our marketing and sales process, and we continue to look at that and try to see how to make that better. So it was just like a lot all at once. And I think just staying, like you said before, staying agile is a big part of it when you're running a small company. Just having ideas and kind of weighing the pros and cons and seeing what will produce the best results was a lot of it. I don't know if that answer the question.
Great. That was great. I think, and one thing I want to touch on for you, you kind of mentioned at NAMM this like awkwardness of not being a musician, and we've found in that process that there's actually a lot of this. There are a lot of people that go to business school, or that you go to school for marketing, and they learn social media marketing, or they're a Google Ads expert, and they end up working for especially larger music companies. And I'm thinking in particular like a lot of music products companies and production companies, and they end up in the industry even though they're not a musician. what's exciting about that is that there are a lot of musicians that feel there isn't enough opportunity and there aren't enough jobs, and therefore they have to leave the industry, or they're going to have to take a job outside of music or be doing something that's not music related to support their passion, their gigs on the side, whatever else they're doing. The reason I bring all this up is there are ridiculous amounts of opportunity. There are people like Isaac that have this amazing background and skill set that's very niche in its own way, and bringing that into the industry as an outsider is great. You're working in the things that you're knowledgeable about and skilled in, and at the same time, there are opportunities. Now, our small company, husband and wife, may be a little bit different, but in some of these bigger companies, for people with music degrees and music backgrounds and music as their passion, to go get those skills, to
Sure.
go learn those things, and to take those jobs instead. And I'm excited about that. And I think that's something that we want to talk about more in these conversations, is bring people in from all different walks of life and music career paths to highlight how they got there, how they got those skills. You've got a great upcoming lineup of people that are in that same mindset, or that, maybe are working in video production, like the studio that we're in right now, but have a music degree and want to be working with musicians. And I think it's really important that we bring those stories out. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. This is a lot of fun, and it's exciting. And, one story that I'll quickly share is I started working with, you mentioned me getting really into TikTok and that being part of our marketing and lead generation process, and started working with a guy who got really good at the psychology of TikTok, and he happened to be, he still is in music and arts, but that was kind of his first thing, and then he got good at something specific, like being authentic on TikTok, and made that his next thing. So yeah, I think it's really cool that you don't have to be put in a box. You don't have to be a musician only. You don't have to be a performer and only do that one thing. There are other things you can do in life, and, take opportunities when they come up.
Yeah. It's exciting to think about the beginning of this. And if you've made it to this point in the podcast, we've been talking for a while, so if you've made it to this point, sincerely thank you. We're excited that this is starting. We're excited about this opportunity. We're very excited to bring these stories to light. We're excited to do it together. Mm-hmm. A lot of our work does tend to be separate, so this is going to be a fun journey together. But most importantly, if there's anything that you would like to see, like if there are any questions that you have, if there's career paths that you're interested in, if something that we've mentioned today or something entirely different is of interest to you, we would love to hear from you. You can email us. We'll put our email in the description for this podcast. You can email us at any time. And if you have a guest that you think would be amazing, or a story that you'd like to tell, or something that you'd like to learn about, please let us know, because this is really for you. This is not for us. The goal here is to bring the most value that we possibly can to help fill this gap and kind of close the void of music degree to music career, or apply that to any other arts program and focus. So thank you. We're very excited.
Thank you. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Awesome. I think we'll wrap it up there for the day. We've got a lot of good episodes coming. This is the first of many, so stay tuned, and we will see you all soon.
See you next time.